Hi friends, we're here to review the latest episode of The Real Housewives of Miami. I think it's episode 3. Eh, maybe. I don't know. So of course, I had already been going off about this on Twitter. The clip has been everywhere, and then there's more context from BravoCon. So I really don't want to get back into it, but I'll just say this. So, obviously they start out and we're left off where, Gertie is at lunch with Larsa, having a conversation that we know is not going to be productive on the part of Larsa, and we're just waiting for it to play out. So basically, Gertie, as the episode starts, she essentially just comes right out with it, and Larsa's immediate response is like, "Well, how was I supposed to know?" And it's like, but she was for real. Like she said it a couple times, and then Gertie was just like, and then I think something finally flipped where she was like, "Oh, I shouldn't say that. Let me say something else." And then when she said something else, she says, "Well, how do you know?" At that point, she didn't have anything else, right? Like she's like, "Okay, the first one didn't work. Let me try this one. This one definitely I feel like didn't work." And so she just kept repeating it. That's kind of all she could say. I At this point I was really wondering like how can Gertie even respond? Because I think that I would have already been at the valet. Like I just those conversations that you just can't, like when you just cannot say anything, like I definitely think that I probably would have already made my exit, and then we probably would have to just like handle that another time, like never. Somehow they worked their way to the conversation. It feels like there had to have been a break of some sort because it kind of almost immediately felt like Gertie was back having a level conversation, and she's like, just listen. You know what I'm saying? She gets very frustrated at one point, and then it feels like it kind of clips, and now Larsa's finally listening. Like I feel like maybe a producer, and this probably didn't happen at all, but I'm just thinking like at the rate that Larsa was at, how terribly she was already having this conversation, somebody had to have come in and said, "Baby, just go ahead and sit back and let it play out." They come to some type of resolve, but you know, th- that's not real, and it's not gonna last because then Larsa's at BravoCon, and Andy essentially asked her, like, now watching it back, would you have handled it differently? And she's like, well, if I was Gertie, I would have handled it differently. Like, I would just be more upfront. I just would have been more upfront about it. She kind of said that in the scene too. She's like, you said that as soon as we sat down, and she said it again to the group, but we're getting to that later. And so she feels like Gertie owed her that information immediately, and that's what would have controlled the tone of the conversation for Larsa. Because it's impossible to just go into a conversation open minded and just like, just see, just see what happens, or just be quiet. They come to a resolve, and Gertie tells her, this is in confidence. You're the fourth person I told, so boom, whatever. We skip maybe, was this even? It wasn't long after. I wish I had caught the clock time. And Larsa is having her welcome back thing for Marcus, who's been gone for 5 days. He said about 5 days, so 4.5 maybe. And Larsa is telling two strangers. They're not strangers to her, obviously, but I don't even know if they know Gertie like that. I don't know them. I've never seen them before. But I guess these are Larsa's friends that are at the party early, and she has told them. And then, Kiki and Lisa come, and they sit. I don't even know if they have fully sat down, and she tells them, and Marisol, and she tells them, and then Alexia comes with Todd. We'll get into that, and she tells her. So now she's told 6 people, I believe that was quick math, and I thought that she was gonna try to come up with a reason as to why she told them, which I think she still has the potential to, because at the very end, like once it was all done, because she kind of told each group and just like no thought process of anything, like it was just immediately like, let me tell them. And then at the very butt end of it though was when she basically said like, let her tell you for yourselves, just so you know like what type of mood to be in. Basically, like she was prepping them for the conversation because she wanted to have that same preparation for the conversation. So that's why she wanted Gertie to tell her in the parking lot before they sat down for lunch. So that may be her overall reasoning. I forgot who asked, but And I forgot how they got into it. It felt really quick. But, you know, somebody had already clocked that Todd was there, and it's like, oh, you're coming to this event, but you weren't at your own event at your house. Cool, bet. And I just want to remind the audience that Todd and Alexia had 2 or 3 talks where they clearly, I was gonna say, they clearly said from their perspective at that time that there was no issue with Todd and anybody at the party. That, you know, he just didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be, you know, around people. He did say he didn't want to be around people that were not their friends. But, you know, but there was no specific issue with anybody. That's what we were told. Now Todd is very passionately expressing to the party that he did not go because he didn't want to break bread with someone in the room who was, he said, talking bad about him, talking bad about his family, and then he goes specifically to say, talking about my son-in-law. And everybody's like, huh? And I'm thinking like, am I reaching? Because I was thinking about it, like, he didn't say that before. And I'm like, maybe I'm reaching though. But while I'm saying that, Kiki's in her confessional, like, is he looking for a scapegoat? Because he is essentially, they're asking who, obviously. He does that thing where he drops a T, but he's like, I'm not going to say who. And it's like, okay, because we're 12. And the whole time, Alexia is kind of just like sitting, leaning in it. And I'm like, oh, poor girl. One of them was like, it's the one you're always talking about. And I gave Adriana this note another episode. Adriana and Alexia had a lunch where they were supposed to hash everything out. And the whole context of the conversation was about trust and moving forward as friends and that, and basically talking about each other, whatever the heck. Adriana still walked away with an issue with Alexia, being that Alexia feels like she's better because of Todd's finances. And now we're finding that Alexia walked away with an issue with Adriana, allegedly. That also extended to Todd. So I'm just like, what was the point of the conversation, and where did this information like miss us? But I didn't buy it. Like, I didn't buy the whole Adriana excuse thing. Like Kiki said in her confessional, she's like, I feel like Adriana's being used as a scapegoat because you didn't show up for the party. Like, and it's like, absolutely. Like, I hope that everybody saw that. I didn't really check Twitter, but these issues go so much deeper. We saw it in their lunch when Alexia and Todd had lunch, and nobody brought it up at the lunch either. So this, because, I mean, if they didn't want the group to know the real reason, fine. But even when they're discussing with each other, nobody said a word about Adriana. So what? So Todd moves on extremely quickly from that. But even more interesting, even if that like specific instance hadn't happened, because they were kind of asking to narrow it down. They're like, oh, what, like, you know, what's the specific thing? And Alexia's like, well, it's always been Adriana. So if it's always, that tells me even more of some BS, because you're kind of grouping this all together. This isn't something that happened and you're still feeling some type of way about it. And you're just like, that's just how I feel about Adriana. And it's so super lame. They're here at the party. I wasn't super clear if it was like purposely like a couples thing, because everybody, like, I don't know, they just kept saying the couples. So, you know, I say all that to say Lisa's boyfriend Jody is there, I think it's his name. And immediately when they kind of greeted them at the door, she was already talking about Lenny. And then it got even worse because they separated and they had like a girls' table. And then they were kikiing a little bit because somebody asked her like how her divorce was going. And then they're like, but really, how, like, are you okay? And she's like, no. Like, and I'm like, okay. She said she's been upset for what? Did she say like a year? Like, she's been upset. She's angry. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's real emotion. Like, she's angry. She feels like Lenny doesn't give an F about her. And it's like, Lisa, like, wake up. And she's like, you know, he's just trying to leave me with nothing. Like, why would he want to do that to me? Like, he doesn't give me any credit. And it's like, Lisa, like, credit. And she's like, I did all of this. So I'm just like, oh, Lisa's still, as she was last season, she's still stuck in the la la land of, like, I think she's still, I understand it. Like, you know, I understand her feeling this way and it is still fresh. But when Lisa talks about Lenny, she says things as if Lenny owes her something at present date. So it makes me feel like Lenny and she are like still in a relationship. Aside from supporting the kids, that is something that he owes. Well, he owes that to the kids. Doesn't owe it to her. But like she's acting like he owes her something and like consideration. Like not even like physical things. She wants some consideration from him, and that is crazy. And even aside from that, what makes it even crazier is they're telling her like, okay, girl, like at first I'm like, who's gonna be the one to like tell her like you have a man, like girl, but they're all like chill, like we don't need to do this. And she's getting louder and more upset. She's like, I cry every night, and she's just like like whatever, Jody doesn't care. And they're like, no girl, like he cares, like that's weird. And she's really going off about Lenny while her man is sitting by the barbecue pit. So I'm just like, oh Lisa, this isn't good. I guess I don't. This is only my second season watching them, so I don't fully know about Nicole's wealth or her man's wealth or whatever the heck, or their situation for real. But they're looking to buy this extravagant boat, and they are also talking about having another child. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. But I'm not even realizing until she says it at the end, like, oh, but don't forget about the wedding. And I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, they're not married. So immediately in this scene, I'm thinking about. Because I know that she has money and she works and everything, but I remember like hearing that he did really well as well. So, I was just kind of like, does she have things, like does she have stability, financial stability in this? But it comes up a little bit later, thank God. So we'll talk about it. I thought it was really sweet that Julia was doing the opera thing because her wife found peace in opera when she was getting her cancer treatment. But then I just thought it was weird. I didn't know if I was thinking into it too much, but I thought it was weird when she said that her wife was in New York getting treatment while she was in Paris. And I'm like, I don't have a timeline here, so it could have been a short period, but I'm like, I don't know, just saying that blanketed sounds weird. And I kind of feel like that popped up a little bit for me later, but we'll get to that as well. I really like the moment where, Gertie is talking to her husband about her cancer and how her husband had to break the news to their sons. And you could tell, I like seeing the dynamic between them because I don't know that I fully ever understood it. I know last season they talked like about Gertie working a lot and not being around for her family. That was like her story. But now I'm seeing that Gertie's really strong in general, even outside of the situation. And she feels like she wants to take care of everything. And I think it's maybe challenging or just a switch in dynamics for her to release that control. So it was comforting seeing her husband let her know like, you're good, I got you. So that's nice. And also I think back like last episode, that's kind of what was happening. They were like, we got you, like it's our time to take care of you. So I'm seeing it. And the gag is, I thought that Lisa was on the phone with her attorney. I wasn't paying. I don't even know if they did like the like, when they're on the phone, they do like the name of who they're on the phone with. I don't know if they did that, but I'm assuming that she's on the phone with her attorney. This whole time she's on the phone with Jody, her boyfriend, and she's talking about the fact that Lenny took her car. And she's like, she's really getting into it. She's like, I'm supposed to be looking for a new car and a new crib. How do I look for either without a car? Like, why is he doing this to me again? Like, more like, why is he doing this? Like, he really trying to leave me out here crazy. And I'm just like, but this is your man, Lisa. Like, that's insane that she's having that. Like, I swear I thought that she was on the phone with her attorney. So that kind of changes the whole thing for me. Because initially, when I thought it was the attorney, I'm like, it sounds like, I don't know, it's just Lisa being Lisa. I'm like, these are reasonable things. I get what she's saying, but she's again acting like she wants some type of, I don't know, like she's still in a relationship with this man. But then to add on the top of it that she was on the phone with her man, and then she's in her confessional like, I should get a therapist, but Jody's kind of my therapist. And it's like, baby, no, he's not. First part, which made me just know that Lisa was still there, was her saying that she feels like Lenny's trying to throw her away. And it's like, and I empathize, like I get it. Again, it's fresh. I know that this has rocked her world, but it's like, we know, I just feel like we know that, like we were there last season. Like that's not a revelation, but for some, she has like a delayed reaction to these things, I guess is what it is. Like she's feeling them and recognizing them long after they have occurred, I guess. Because it's just like, yeah, Lisa, like, y'all are getting a divorce. Like, he told you last season. He wanted you out. Like, he's in a relationship that he's been in since last season. Like, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, she has to catch up. I did really like seeing Nicole get to have a conversation with her mom, and her mom bringing up what I was wondering. So, basically the fact she brings up that in Florida, I guess, if you're not married and you separate from your partner or whatever, you get nothing. So, and I guess that's, now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, well, duh, right? Isn't that everywhere? But I don't know. But, she brings that up. Great job. Needed to hear it. And I like Nicole's point, because I was thinking that too. And I'm like, is this almost like a TV setup thing like we watch? Because I'm like, where is this going, right? Earlier when they were on the boat, I'm like, is this supposed to be one of those things where, like, because nobody can predict it, but I'm like, is this going to be one of those things where it's like we watch, because it all sounds good, we watch her like get all these assets and this boat and this house and spend money but never get married to this man. I'm like, is the other shoe gonna drop like next season or down the line, and we start looking back again? Who can predict it? But I'm just wondering. But then, Nicole does say, like, she has her own assets, she has a job, as I know she does this as well, which is another job. So I definitely believe that she could take care of herself. But for me, it just comes with the assets, right? Like, I guess I'm just wondering, like, is he getting more assets and she's just benefiting them, while they're in a relationship and before they get married? Or are they actually getting those assets together prior to marriage? Like, what is the ownership, right? She definitely said she doesn't pay for anything, but I'm just wondering, like, does she have any ownership in it at all? Like, I don't know. Like, because then what's the purpose? Like, because then it feels like the storyline is like, oh, well, we're getting a house and we're getting a boat. And it's like, no, he's getting a house and he's getting a boat. That's how I feel. Like, they're in a relationship and they're engaged, but they're not married. And she said it too. She said it. She's like, if anything were to happen, like, she'd be fine. She has her own stuff. So I'm like, okay, so then this stuff is his, right? But that's no shade. I 100% agree with her. Like, financial security comes from self. So, if she's doing her own thing and she's gonna prepare to have her own stuff, then great. But I'm wondering, like, I need to have some clarity. Like, is this his stuff, or are y'all buying it as it's our stuff in anticipation of being married? Like, I would like some clarity on that. And lastly, we get like a dinner or a lunch with Julia and Martina, her wife, and they're discussing the fact, this is what brought me back. This, like, Martina said that Julia had missed her last appointment. I think her last treatment. Her last treatment is what she said. It was three days prior. And Julia does say she missed it because she was doing the opera thing. I just feel like, I don't know what that means. Like, you had rehearsal, because even if you had a rehearsal, that's like a small part of the day. It's their birthday all day. Or was it just the opera thing occupying your mind? Both are bad. So I don't know what that has to do with anything. I mean, she did also say, like, not that it's an excuse, but I'm also just thinking, like, but why bring it up? Because she is making it a thing. She's like, Martina doesn't even know. And obviously it's going to come out because she's going to have the opera party, and I'm going to assume she's going to give her that context. But I don't know if I feel like it matters, and I don't know if Martina will feel like it matters. So that's weird to me. So that just makes me think about knowing that she was also in Paris when she was getting treatment in New York. It just makes me wonder, like, how long did that last? Like, what were the dynamics? And how much was Julia around? I'm just curious. Finally, what I really loved was seeing, because Julia offered it to her earlier in the episode, I liked seeing Gertie come meet with them and have a conversation with Martina, ask very specific questions and express really serious concerns, right? They talked about chemo a little bit, and I liked hearing Gertie say, like, she went online and she was trying to see, black women surviving breast cancer, like, what does that look like? And she can really find it. So I think it will be nice for her to be able to, if she wants, it's a good opportunity for her to be able to build a community like that, because that's interesting to hear that that's not necessarily available. So yeah, I thought that I like Miami episodes because you get so much, like, and if you watch my Beverly Hills review, so, there was a ton, and I thought that it was a really good episode, and I'm hoping that these, like, different through lines for each cast member keep going, and we keep seeing, I mean, we're obviously about to see, obviously towards the end, Larsa is planning for that basketball thing, and then we get a fast forward to, you know, Mary saw, and I guess it was Adriana getting into it on the bus. So yes, that's one thing, but I hope there's more, and I want to see what's going on. So I'll see y'all on the next one.